Hello there, I'm Ryan, and welcome to my channel, Analyze This Mr. Bond, where I discuss the adventures of James Bond 007 and dig for what lies beneath the surface. Today we're digging into one of the most controversial films in the series, 2008's Quantum of Solace. Quantum of Solace had the potential to be a thrilling revenge story that built on the foundation laid by Casino Royale. Instead, for many viewers, the finished film felt confusing and muddled, the victim of a writer's strike and rushed editing. Today, I'm going to attempt to rebuild it from the ground up. The core problem with Quantum of Solace isn't the action or the much-maligned editing. It's that the characters' motivations are unclear, and there isn't sufficient payoff for their actions. To address this issue, we have to look at the three pillars of any Bond story. Bond himself, the hero, the villain, and the girl. So let's start with James Bond himself. Quantum of Solace was always intended to pick up right where Casino Royale left off, and there's no real reason to change that. The opening of Quantum of Solace is conceptually sound. Audiences wanted to see how Bond, filled with purpose and rage, would carry on after he confronted Mr. White at the end of Casino Royale. If anything, the opening of Quantum of Solace fails to clearly establish Bond's state of mind. If anything, Quantum of Solace misses an opportunity to fully establish Bond's state of mind in the wake of Casino Royale. While the car chase shows Bond's brutal efficacy, the interrogation with Mr. White is a curiously muddled scene. Even M in the finished scene seems uncertain of Bond's state of mind, and Bond seems uncertain of himself. In confronting Mr. White, we had the opportunity for Bond to reveal the rage that simmers beneath the surface. When interrogating Mr. White, Bond could have gone off the rails, pushed the limits of the interrogation, shocking even M. This could have raised the stakes of the scene and laid a better foundation for why Mitchell, M's bodyguard, was forced to spring into action and reveal himself as a quantum agent. He needs to stop Bond from pushing Mr. White to reveal too much. This could have also helped clarify M's choices in this story. She knows she has a potentially unstable agent on her hands, but with the knowledge that MI6 is compromised, she has few options. She has to sanction Bond's crusade for vengeance. She has no other choice. She can't rely on the rest of the tools at her disposal. She has to point her blunt instrument at the problem and hope that the recoil doesn't hurt her. And Bond, effectively unleashed, is free to pursue his crusade for vengeance against the quantum organization. In a shift from the finished film, I'm going to propose that Bond's first target should not be the anonymous henchman Mr. Slate, but actually Yusuf Kapira. Yusuf Kapira was established early on in the film as the primary lead, and there's no reason Bond shouldn't go directly there after his entanglement with Mr. White and Mitchell in Siena. In fact, we can jump ahead a few months to have given some time to settle between the events of Casino Royale and the bulk of the story of Quantum of Solace. Bond may have been on the trail of Yusuf Kapira, tracking him down across the globe, and finally locates him. We can watch Bond stalking Yusuf Kapira, observe the simmering murderous intent beneath the surface in Daniel Craig's eyes. But when Bond finally confronts Kapira in Kapira's apartment, things go in a way that Bond doesn't expect. Bond begins to interrogate Kapira, confront him about Vesper. But Kapira interrupts the interrogation with a knife, and thus begins a short, brutal fight through Kapira's apartment. It's over much too soon, and suddenly the light is fading from Kapira's eyes as he lies dying on the floor. Bond has had the confrontation he was hoping for, but it's been over too soon. It's too unsatisfying. There's no closure in it. Bond has confronted Kapira and gotten no satisfaction. And this is the major pivot I'm proposing for my rewrite of Quantum of Solace. Bond achieves the key target of his revenge, but the rage remains. The question is what Bond does with that pain. The question of the story becomes, how will Bond move forward? How will he pull himself out of this dark hole. The film is no longer about the lingering ghost of a dead woman. It's about the man she left behind. And this can help really ground why Bond goes to his old ally from Casino Royale, Rene Mathis. He's working outside of the MI6 system. M has told him to work outside of those channels to hunt Quantum to the ground. And Mathis is not only outside of the system, but Mathis has an understanding of what Bond's past has been. Mathis understands about Quantum. He understands about Bond's path with Vesper. Both tactically and subconsciously, Bond has a reason to reach out to Mathis. Mathis is essentially unfinished business for Bond. And even in the theatrical cut, Bond's scenes with Mathis are the best parts of the film. Giancarlo Giannini is excellent, and the writing pulls so well from the legacy of Ian Fleming and their scenes at Mathis's villa and on the plane ride to Bolivia. We can keep those essential encounters together. We can keep this mentor relationship with Bond, and have Mathis guide Bond as he does in Ian Fleming's novel Casino Royale, that to find purpose, Bond needs to, quote, surround himself with human beings, unquote. If he surrounds himself with human beings, he'll be better equipped to identify the really black targets in our midst. The character of Strawberry Fields is actually a distraction from the relationship between Bond and Mathis. If anything, the film should have leaned more into their partnership and collaboration. In omitting Strawberry Fields, we can let Mathis be the true sacrificial lamb of the story. In the finished film, Mathis's death almost feels like an afterthought, sandwiched between major plot beats. Here, his death can be the major dramatic moment that sets up the final act of the film. Mathis can be the catalyst for Bond's great decisions in this story, and help Bond grow in the arc that Ian Fleming intended as he settles into his role as a professional weapon. And that purpose requires a target. So let's talk about Bond's enemy in this film, Dominic Greene. In Casino Royale, Bond fought terrorists and their financiers. They were direct, tangible threats on the front lines. But now Bond is going beyond the front lines, and Dominic Greene symbolically is the perfect embodiment of this kind of villain. He's one of the cruel, faceless men who callously enact evil on the world from the comfort of a boardroom. He's a corporate predator. This makes him a far more modern and insidious threat, and one that nicely continues the arc established in Casino Royale as Bond has been prodded to look beyond the frontline threats to the masterminds behind them. The most interesting quality about Dominic Greene as a villain in the finished film is his middle manager energy. There's a palpable insecurity about Dominic Greene, a desperation to prove himself. He's committing great evil in his desperation to climb the ladder. I think Quantum of Solace had an opportunity to make the most of that, to really lean into that energy. Just by slightly redefining his role, we can give his arc a little bit more heft and give his sinister plan to stage a coup in Bolivia to control its water supply a little bit more scale, a little bit more urgency. All we need to do is frame him not as one of Quantum's inner circle, but as an ambitious operative trying to earn a seat at the table. His plan to destabilize Bolivia is his audition for Quantum's inner circle. It's his proof that he can bring value to the organization and enact a global plan to control the world's resources. It's a subtle nuance, but if you lean into that direction, it gives his sweaty desperation some weight and also gives his sinister plan a nasty edge. And we can further accentuate Greene's menace in the way that we reshape the character of Camille. In the original film, Camille is a secondary character whose revenge story feels somewhat disconnected from Bond's arc. We can clarify her arc and make her the thematic heart of the movie. The simplest way to do this is just to make Dominic Greene her target instead of General Medrano. She could be holding Dominic Greene personally responsible for the murder of her family. Her backstory could be that Green Planet, at Dominic Greene's order, had hired mercenaries to remove her family from resource-rich lands. And in the process, Camille's family was murdered. She could truly mirror Bond's own quest for revenge. Her quest could be reckless, paired with an unhidden death wish. She wants to kill Dominic Greene publicly, to making an example of him. In this more direct mirroring, in this shared target, it starts to create a more palpable tension, anchored in a complex question. Can two broken people with mirrored pain find a way to bring solace to one another? Or will their combined damage just drag them both under? And if you really frame their relationship that way, you can build to a much more satisfying, coherent climax where all these different strands, Bond's relationship with Mathis's encouragement to Bond that he needs to find purpose in people around him, Dominic Greene's sinister, calculated ambitions, and Camille's thirst for revenge all come together in a satisfying, unified moment. When Bond and Camille confront Greene, Bond can shove the whimpering villain to his feet before Camille. He doesn't give Camille an order, he respects her autonomy, but he shares with her a truth he's learned himself, the pivotal truth of his arc, a truth pulled from the finished film, but not given the weight it deserves. Bond tells her that the dead don't care about vengeance. And this is the moment the film then hinges on, as Camille contemplates taking her revenge. In that moment, she finds her quantum of solace. Not in the bang of a gunshot, but in the quiet power of letting go. She and Bond arrive in this climax at a parallel realization. They can't chain themselves to the dead. They need to draw purpose from the living. This can transform their farewell as they each go their separate ways to achieve their own purposes. Camille to help stabilize Bolivia, Bond to go and face men like Greene, to use the information he's obtained from Greene to hunt down the rest of the quantum organization. Bond's journey is now more coherent. He starts as a broken man, burdened by rage, but learns that rage on its own is unsatisfying even if it's powerful. He's able to aid a kindred spirit and find purpose in chasing down the great faceless evil men of the world. So in the final scene, when M tells Bond that she's glad he's back, his reply is justifiably calm and absolute. I never left. So that would be my blueprint for reorienting the story of Quantum of Solace. What do you think of my repositioning of the characters in the story? As with any story, there's no single right answer, so I'm very curious to hear your own ideas about how you would rework Quantum of Solace in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, be sure to subscribe for more deep dives, and also check out my similar videos for Spectre and No Time to Die. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.